While I was growing up, there was a period of time where I started to deliberately avoid my mother because whenever I was around her, whenever she would say anything or be stubborn or ask me to share any experiences and she wouldn't really listen and she would try to take responsibility for everything that I wanted to do, I felt quite suffocated and I would spend most of my time shutting my room door, sitting on Discord, talking to my friends at home while I would complain about my mother without ever trying to kind of communicate our boundaries and things like that. And even if I did try, I would try a little bit, get angry and then play the victim card that my mom isn't understanding, and no matter how hard I try, she wouldn't respect my boundaries or be less emotionally volatile. And I know a lot of people who also deliberately stay outside for longer hours, go past their curfew just to spite their mother. I remember I had a hard time struggling with this, and because my mother was always present, it felt like I had no privacy. I can't hide from her. If I would leave my room alone, she would come in and then move things all over the place into places where I can't find them. Or every time I shared something, she would try to take responsibility for it and make it her problem to go and solve. And you feel disrespected and suffocated, and it's really, really difficult. You get anxious all the time. You don't want to share anything anymore. You start to keep to yourself. And then you play this victim card, you get sad, and you start to feel lonely at home. But one day you start to look at your mother and you know how much sacrifice she's making. You know how hard she works for this family. You know how much she does, how much cleaning she does, even when nobody's watching. And you really think to yourself, like, should I really be thinking this way of my mom? Should I always be feeling so anxious and suffocated and avoidant of my mother when she's working so hard all the time? You start to feel bad about it. You start to feel frustrated with yourself. Why do I feel this way? And every time you're around her, you start to get pissed because you're kind of fighting with your own self. You feel those anxiousness rising up, you feel that frustration rising up, and at the same time you don't want to have those feelings because you love your mother, you care about her, and you want to show up for her in a nice, kind and caring way. But these emotions keep coming up, and at the same time you feel like these emotions are somewhat justified because of how she acts, how stubborn she is, how she doesn't respect your boundaries, how she tries to intrude into your business or shouts your name all the time, even when you tell her that you're busy doing something. Throughout my secondary school years to young JC years, from like 13 years old all the way to 17 years old, I was avoidant, I felt suffocated, I was anxious all the time, and I started not telling her anything. And one day I was sitting for an examination in secondary school during O-levels. We had Chinese examination, we had to sit, and there was this part of the examination where you had to read a passage, a story, before answering a few questions about what you learned from that story. It talked about a man who was walking his mother to the doctor, to the clinic, and he held his mom's hand to guide her for the first time in a very, very long time. And he noticed that the texture of his mother's hand was different. It was a little bit wrinkly, it was a little bit rougher. And he thought back into the past when he was younger, when he was in his 20s, when he was in his teenage years. It wasn't the same hand he felt back then when his mom's hand was youthful and soft and energetic, and she had more strength in her fingers. He realized that after all these years of not showing his mother affection, things have changed and he cannot go back. And after I read that story, right, it really, really hit me. Because I sat down at the examination like, wow, that is a good story. I even started to cry a little bit. Because I'm a very sentimental kind of guy, and I really prioritize the flow of love in my relationships. And just learning that, I have so much almost untapped potential of strength of bond with my mother. No, see, she's calling me right now while I'm recording. I have so much potential bond with someone like my mother that I don't want to lose. And the fact that I've been so avoidant means I've already wasted so much chance to connect with her. And knowing that time passes fast, knowing that before I know it, she won't be around any longer, I really, really felt bad, and I really, really felt frustrated. Why do I feel these emotions when I try to sit down and have a normal conversation? Why is it so hard for me to communicate my boundaries? Why does she not listen? And from then on, I really wanted things to change. So in this video, we're going to talk about how you can improve your relationship with your mother, how you can become a more patient person, become more emotionally competent. First, you feel terrible all the time and you feel anxious all the time and frustrated all the time when you're with your mother because you lack emotional competence and you have chosen to tolerate over short-term discomfort, your mental health is not good enough. You don't know how to manage your emotions, your anxiety, your frustrations, and still stay in the moment and still communicate with the other person and let those habitual thoughts kind of fade away. And in order to do that, unfortunately, you're going to have to put in some work. What you need is mindfulness. And you get mindfulness by reducing your overstimulation and really learning how to come back into the present moment. And you don't do that any better than with meditation. Meditation sounds like this complicated monk-like fucking strange voodoo shit, but it really is fucking simple. And everyone successful kind of has experience with it, you know. It is not something that is super special. It's going to make you extremely unique, but it is something that helps you tame your overthinking mind, helps you tame your emotions, causing you to react in certain ways. So what you need to implement is start doing a daily habit of meditation. And if you don't want to meditate, a nice alternative would be to really sit without your phone and just observe life. Just really take in life as a whole. You know, you look at the wall has a certain texture to it that's kind of badass, you know, you don't ever notice that. Maybe you are grateful for being able to touch things, to smell things, you're grateful for your senses, you're grateful for the people around you. You just really sit without your phone. Otherwise, you can actually just meditate, which what it basically is sitting down. You can even do guided meditation, but basically what you do is you sit down and you really focus on something. Maybe you focus on your breath, or you imagine a dot in front of you when you close your eyes and you kind of focus on it. You make sure it doesn't vibrate all over the place. You're going to notice that when you try to imagine a dot in one spot, try it right now. Close your eyes, imagine a dot in one spot. You realize that it's moving all over the place, or you realize that you start to generate other thoughts. Like, let's just pause the video, keep silent for a while, you know, and really try to focus on that dot for 5 seconds. Now, when you did that, you see how your brain flew all over the place and generated all sorts of random thoughts and started asking, you know, why am I doing this? This is so stupid. I can't believe I'm actually closing my eyes right now. All these thoughts. Meditation is focusing on that dot and realizing those thoughts come up, but then kind of pushing it back down to focus on the dot and letting that thought kind of disappear and not influence your actions. Now, as you get more mindful, you're going to realize that you're able to be more present, have better communication, be less afraid of the uncomfortable conversations because you're able to kind of let go of those emotions influencing how you react. Next, you gotta be able to force yourself to go against your parents and not just tolerate when they do cross your boundaries, or when they do something that you disagree with, or when they try to take responsibility for something that you want to be responsible for. Like, for example, your studies, and they try to take control of that. They force you to study. They tell you you're gonna study at this time, you're gonna study at this place, and you're gonna study this. But you want to take control of it yourself, and you get pissed off that they're trying to take their responsibility away from you. You have to say no. You have to say, nope, not happening. And disagreeing all the way, no matter what they threaten to do, no matter what they threaten to take, no matter how they threaten to punish you, you have to just sit there and take it. You have to say no, you cannot tolerate. If you want to have a good relationship with your parents, you can't let them be authoritative over you. You have to have some sort of say. If not, you will hate them, especially when you're older. When you're younger, it is more likely that you are willing to follow the direction, and it is more likely that you should follow the direction. But as you grow older, maybe beyond 18, maybe beyond 16 even, you want to say no. And you want to sit on that no and let them learn that they cannot control you. It's tough as fuck. Some parents can think of the most retarded punishments, the most messed up shit you can think of, but you have to be able to stand up for yourself. If they are abusive, you have to learn to, fight, get jacked, be a little bit difficult to bully around. If they threaten to kick you out of the house, you have to be ready for that. Let it happen. Just get kicked out of the house. If that's the worst that can happen, that's great. Fuck it. If they decide to punish you in that way, take it. You have to, if you want a good relationship with your parents, you have to let that happen. You have to let the worst they can do happen and sit there and take it anyway. Set your boundaries, say no anyway, and just sit there and take it. Be okay with whatever punishment they can throw at you. And trust in what your decisions are, even if you make the wrong ones. Because that's the only way you're going to have a proper relationship and a nice communicative relationships with your parents when they realize they can't control you. Unfortunately, everybody will look down on it, especially Asian parents. It's like, oh, you're being rebellious, you're being rude and not respectful and things like that. No matter what anybody says, you have to trust me. You have to be willing to set your own boundaries and say no and tolerate the consequences. If you force yourself to tolerate them, you are inevitably going to hate them. Never tolerate, at least communicate. And if communicating doesn't work, but you have to actually try. You have to have the mental capacity to try. Most of us, right? We have so little mental capacity because of our terrible mental health that we give up communication right when it gets a little bit difficult. Right when the anxiety comes to a certain threshold, we just stop, we avoid, we disappear, we give up. And then we play the victim saying that we tried our best already. We already tried to communicate, but we've barely tried. We say like 3 sentences, they still shut us down and then we quit. We cannot quit. We have to go all the way until the punishment happens or we win. Relationships are an active thing. It is something that you have to actively maintain and have capacity for. And some days will be terrible, some days you have no capacity to tolerate at all, but still it is your responsibility, because that's what having a relationship means. Combined with this cutthroat establishment of your boundaries and being able to say no and being able to tolerate whatever they throw at you, you also have to put in extra effort into showing more affection, showing gratitude and appreciation, love and understanding, and being willing to communicate even when you don't really have to. You have to put in that extra step. You cannot sit and wait for them to give you more affection. You cannot sit and wait for your mother to give you more affection, more love, more care, and be more willing to communicate and be less stubborn if you're not doing the same. And when you're doing the same, when you're communicating to her that it's only fair that she tries to do the same as well, that's when she really thinks, oh damn, my child is becoming more emotionally mature than I am. My child is able to, have the capacity to deal with all these negative emotions, have the capacity to come up to me and honestly express to me these things, show me affection despite me getting angry at them. My child is able to communicate with me, have these emotionally mature communication with me, have this uncomfortable conversations with me that even I dread. Imagine if they can see that. If your mother sees that you are trying, one day she's gonna slowly accept and understand you and actually try to understand you and actually have consideration for you when she tries to take your responsibilities away from you or whatever that you've communicated with her. And when she gets the feeling that you're emotionally mature, she's so much more inclined to prove that she is also able to communicate and try to reward your efforts for being grateful towards her, for being kind towards her, for being willing to communicate and willing to have uncomfortable conversations. This is the only way you can improve your relationship with your mother. Honesty, communication, and tolerating whatever the fuck they want to throw at you. And understanding that you'll be okay, and even if it hurts like fuck, you can take it, and it's the only way towards a good potential relationship. And I know some parents can be pretty fucking messed up. I know it can get pretty damn bad. But if we want to build a relationship, that's what's going to have to happen. That's what we're going to have to do. That's the risk we're going to have to take. I know it's scary as fuck. Yeah, it really is. It really is. And beyond that practice of honesty and communication is building your mental health up. And there are many ways you can do this, but one of the specific ways I want to talk about that a lot of people neglect, after all the meditation and journaling and self-reflection, what a lot of people neglect is your fundamental health, your gut and hormonal health. And why this is so important is 70% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. And what serotonin is this mood regulator. It's what helps you, operate and manage your emotions. So, if you want to feel better, if you wonder why you are always anxious, why you always feel terrible, why you're always tired, why you're always pissed off and irritable, it's because you have shit gut and hormonal health that's affecting your serotonin levels. So how you can improve your gut health and your hormonal health is first regulate your sleep. Your sleep is so dog water, you're probably sleeping at 3 a.m. and waking up at 11 a.m. or sometimes even sleeping at 3 a.m. and waking up at 7 a.m. and it flies all over the place. Some days you stay at 5 a.m., some days you stay at 10 p.m. depending on how tired you are. When you regulate your sleep, you get 30 to 60 minutes of sunlight after waking up. When you're waking up at the same time every single day, you regulate your cortisol levels, which in turn improves your hormonal health. And beyond that, we have to really look at gut health. Gut health, you want to avoid any inflammatory kinds of foods like simple carbs, like oils, like funny processed foods that your gut doesn't know how to manage. You want to avoid all these kinds of things. Fundamentally, don't eat anything with funny chemicals that you don't understand. If there are funny chemicals you don't understand in the ingredient list, think twice before buying it, think twice before consuming it. Beyond that, and when you follow that principle, it becomes really, really easy. What doesn't have funny chemicals? We'll just stick to whole foods, right? Like meat, fruit, vegetables, starchy carbs, they all don't really have much funny things in it. And there are a lot of arguments of what's wrong and what's right. Some people want to be strictly carnivorous and things like that, and how simple carbs are terrible for you. But fuck it, I think the most basic diet, the best thing to do that is most convenient and realistic is just look for less chemicals, look for less added sugars. The processed sugars completely out of the way, right? That's disgusting. Like funny oils that aren't from animal sources, just get that shit out of the way, like what the fuck. And when you improve your gut health, you will feel the effects so quickly. You'll feel your mood be able to regulate so much quicker, you'll feel so much happier, you have so much more energy, you'll be able to tolerate so much more things without reacting emotionally. You'll be able to be less angry, less upset, less pissed off, less anxious all the time, and life is just going to go up in quality. And doing all this will help you sit with your mother and have those genuine conversations and help you show appreciation even when it's tough, and help you sit there and tolerate even when it gets really, really bad for you. One of the things I did when I felt like things were off between me and my mother and I really wanted to improve the relationship is I sat down and I wrote a gratitude letter towards her. Everything good I could think of, I would write it down. And there really isn't a day where I have nothing to be grateful for my mother. I remember there's a long period of time where every single day, one part of my journal would say, I'm grateful for my mother for doing this for me, every day. Because our mothers do things every single day for us, ridiculous things, and the magnitude of these things are not only of how good they are in of itself, but because she's able to get at it every single day. She's able to do it without motivation, without anyone telling her to, without anybody noticing her doing it. And she would do it for you. I love my mother so much. I think a gratitude letter will go a very, very long way. It'll be beautiful. I promise you she will keep it for the rest of her life. And you'll feel amazing about it. And ask her to tell you stories. A relationship with our mother is such a beautiful thing. It's seriously such a beautiful thing. So since our mothers are too occupied with managing their own set of responsibilities and things, let's help them with the emotional capacity side, right? Since we are a little bit more free, we have a little bit less responsibilities as a younger person, we can handle that. It's our bare minimum. Come on, man. Come on, we're fucking men, yeah? We have to be like the rock to, a woman's emotional fluctuations and shit like that, okay? We have to be that mountain, that person that people can rely on, and there's no better opportunity to practice that than now. Let's sit with our emotions, let's sit with our frustrations, and we do it anyway. We have to be more patient with our mothers because we can't live with ourselves always being angry every time they say something, always being anxious all the time that she's gonna do something. We can't live like that. That isn't right. I'm putting all my knowledge on holistic self-improvement into a video course, and it will have everything I know. I can also have access to like-minded individuals in a Discord community. If you want to join, link is in the description below. You got this. Be patient with your mother. I love you. Good luck. It's a better world.